to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Well, on today's Vacation Station Parks and Travel Show, we're going to California's beautiful Sequoia country, the land of the giants.
I love it.
I know. Big trees, big bears, beautiful birds, beautiful skies. It's just magical. Everyone has to go there.
Big bears rubbing on big trees.
I know. And if you go there once, you're going to want to go back again. It's like one of those places that once you go there, it's just captured your heart for your lifetime. And excited, we have Cynthia Kawasaki-Yee joining us from the Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. We have Denise Alonzo, our hiking buddy from Giant Sequoia National Monument and Sequoia-National Forest, joining us. She taught us all about pine cones.
Yes, she did.
She taught us that those little ones were the sequoias. And
that makes no sense.
But it's true. Yeah, she took
tiny seed for a great big tree.
Magnificent tree, yeah. And then Gary Rogers is joining us from Sequoia Parks Conservancy. They do awesome work and put on a lot of great events and educational programs, and a big supporter of the parks, and just excited to have him on the show.
Cool.
Yeah, and then after California's Sequoia country, we're going north to Washington's island region. We've been covering the islands quite a bit. Camano Island, I can say that correctly now.
Good.
Whidbey, Langley, Orcas Island. These regions it's like about 30 minutes from Seattle, and next thing you know, you're on this pristine island. And you're in nature, there's state parks, there's a national reserve out there.
It's amazing, because I knew they were there because sometimes you see those little specks on the map.
And then
I had no idea.
Jumping orca whale jumping off the map.
Yeah, it's like, but now when you see the photos, I can't wait to go there.
I know. It's so beautiful, and these island folks are so cool about keeping their sense of place and the integrity of the land. So this is just like the perfect show. Everybody's like maintaining pristine landscapes and keeping the environment and the ecosystems, going and flourishing by protecting and preserving them. And these islands are doing the same thing. So people living on the islands are really into maintaining their history. And, if they're doing any kind of farming, it's very organic and everything's farm to table. I mean, it's just like, it's awesome.
Well, you see the results of bad behavior on an island quicker than
that's a good
mainland.
Lesson. Yeah. So
know.
Hillary Larson will be back on talking about her Whidbey Island adventures up in Washington, and she says it's got a mystical quality that makes locals linger and visitors never want to leave.
Wow.
I know.
I like it.
All right, happy Friday, everybody. It is February 23rd. It's the last Friday of February. I mean, how did this happen? I thought it was still Christmas. But anyway, it's not.
I don't know.
Time's flying.
We're already thinking about summer.
I'm ready to get on the road. I want to go back to the trees.
I know.
I really want to get back up there. You're listening to Big Blend Radio's Vacation Station Parks and Travel Show. We're streaming live from a very sunny but cold Tucson, Arizona. We're your hosts, Nancy Reed and Lisa Smith. We're the crazy mother-daughter travel team and publishers of two digital interactive publications. We have Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. On March 1st, that next issue is out. And both our magazines come out every 2 months each, and Big Blend is our variety publication, covers everything from art and music to history and nature, gardening, food, cooking, travel, a lot of travel, a lot of the California sequoias that are in this upcoming issue, talking about all the foodie adventures you can have in Tulare County and California Sequoia region, and there's a lot. Also, we've got Parks and Travel magazine, and that's what it covers, parks, travel, it covers forests, any piece of natural landscape and historical landscape is in there, and the gateway communities as well. So you can check that out at nationalparktraveling.com, and for our Big Blend Radio and TV magazine and our radio shows, go to blendradioandtv.com. But I think it's time to get to the big trees. Are you ready, Nancy?
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Go.
I know. Let's get going. We got trees to get to. Today on Big Blend Radio's Vacation Station Parks and Travel Show, we're going to hear all about spring and early summer in Tulare County, which is Central California. It's east of Fresno. It's about 4 to 5 hours from San Francisco Bay Area, about 3 to 4 hours from Los Angeles, and it's a must-visit destination. It's home to Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks, the giant Sequoia National Monument, and Sequoia National Forest, and the region is just one of those awesome vacation destinations no matter what time of year. All kinds of outdoor activities from rock climbing and hiking to stargazing, bird watching. There's all kinds of festivals in the local communities, a lot of ranger programs to go check out too in the parks and forests. And there's lots of shopping and dining. Lots of shopping out there too. So if you go to discoverthesequoias.com, you'll be able to connect to all the communities and all the parks and forests, and also go to nationalparktraveling.com because we cover the area quite a bit as well. We have 3 special guests joining us today. We have Cynthia Kawasaki-Yee. She's a public affairs officer of Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks. Welcome to the show, Cynthia. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
We're excited. We know exactly where you're sitting, and you have woodpeckers that hang out right outside your window. I know that, right?
That's right.
And blue jays. I remember the blue jays. And and you're near, like you're like towards the entrance of Sequoia National Park. You come in through the gate, through 3 Rivers, go up, and so you're near Hospital Rock, not too far from there, right? Cool.
Nope.
You know, we never stopped at Hospital Rock. So what were we missing at Hospital Rock? Apparently some history.
Yeah, we have some nice history there, some archaeological sites that are there, some paintings on the rock. So it's a really great picnic area to stop by on your way up into the trees. And it's also a great place to stop in the summer when we have road construction delays, where you can kind of kill some time and hang out and not wait in your car in line to go up. Instead, you can wait for the pass-through there and really enjoy the area.
Very cool. So we missed out, Nancy. You know, that you get into that mode of like, we've got to get to the trees, the big trees. You got to go up that mountain.
There's always a reason to go back.
Always a reason. I want to give out your website. Everyone, nps.gov/SEKI is the website to go to also for road openings, because now Sequoia National Park, we are going to chat with Denise as well from the forest area as well, but it's all kind of interwoven, like the National Forest and also the giant Sequoia National Monument, but it's all connected through the General's Highway, right? When you come in from Sequoia, that will take you to Kings Canyon.
That's right. And if you blink, you could be in a forest or you can be in a park. You just don't know.
I know. I don't know who I am. So, it gets confusing for me. So both parks are connected through there. But Kings Canyon, typically Sequoia's open, but Kings Canyon is when you close off part of the area because of snow, right?
So part of the park, Cedar Grove specifically, is closed in the winter. It closes, I think it's closed later in the fall, and then it opens back up around May 11th.
Okay. Mother's Day.
So that's when the Lodge Market and Grill are expected to open. The actual road is supposed to open the 4th Friday in April, so you can access Cedar Grove. But the other areas of Kings Canyon are open in the winter. So Grant Grove is always open, and there is a road closure between the parks from Sequoia to Kings Canyon, and that road is typically closed from January 2nd to March 16th, but that's when snow is on the ground. So this year, I think it's been open more than it's been closed, just because we unfortunately haven't been getting a lot of snow.
Well, you got it the year before. But yeah, we did have weird weather going on. Same here out in Tucson, and we're right outside Saguaro National Park, and we're like, where's our winter rain? And then all of a sudden it came and it got really cold, and then it's going to go away. I don't know, but we need moisture in the West. I just want to say that. I want to put that out there for the moisture gods, so please bring them out. But again, for the roads opening, when they're going to open, you can go to nps.gov/SEKI to keep up with that. I also want to bring Denise Alonzo. We call her our hiking buddy. She's taken us around the forest areas. She is the District Public Affairs Officer of Giant Sequoia National Monument and Sequoia National Forest. And for their website, go to ss.usda.gov/Sequoia. Denise, welcome back. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm thrilled to be back on the show. Thank you for inviting me.
Hey, it's cool. I have to say, I wish all three of us were out hiking together. This would make for a far better show.
Let's wait until May, though, because it's awful cold out there right now.
See, we have our heat going on in here. So
I know, and this is colder than last year.
Wow.
Yeah, here we actually just had snow down to where we hiked last year. We have about 3 inches of snow even at the lower elevation just above Springville. So it's really cold out there right now, but thankfully we did get some snow in the last few days.
Oh, that is awesome. That's awesome. And then you sent us some little cold snaps down here. So that's good. Thank you. But so the forest, is it typically open in May for people to go hiking around?
Typically, we do open all of the dirt roads towards the end of May, just prior to Memorial Day weekend. Most everything opens up. Of course, it's weather dependent.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so everyone watch for that. And so is it also your website that people should keep watch for that too?
Yes, absolutely. We'll indicate on our website when things normally open up, but it may be a little earlier this year because of the continuing dry conditions, so expect that we might open in April this year.
Okay. So, there's a few positives, but we still want rain and moisture.
Absolutely, yes.
We need that. And so that's the thing. I know last year, I'm really glad you're on the show because I know last year you had fires out that way, and we were all very, very nervous and, worried for you and the land. And it is part of nature. It does happen, and there's always a reason. But I know a lot of people are wondering, is the forest going to be open this year? I mean, is it going to be the same kind of experience? What can they expect?
Yeah, we've always had and always will have fire in the ecosystem. That's just part of the Sierra Nevada. However, when we have drought years, like it looks like we're going to have this summer again, we are going to be at very high risk for wildfire again. And what that means is we may restrict campers' ability to have campfires, even inside campgrounds. If the conditions are dry enough and there's a potential for a campfire, say, to escape from somebody who perhaps built it too close to dry vegetation, we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So we will actually not allow campfires if the fire risk is too high.
Okay, that's good for everyone to know. And I wanted to circle back also to Cynthia. Is that the same for the park if you're out camping, or you want to, grill something in a picnic spot? Are there rules and regulations we should know before we do anything naughty?
Yes, and it's pretty similar to the Forest Service. Like she mentioned, it's going to be a very dry year. So typically our fire restrictions don't go into place until later in the summer, but this year we do expect it to be a lot sooner, probably, not too far from now. So fire restrictions, no fires. We just want to make sure, just want to keep everyone safe and have them have a good experience because, just a tiny little coal or something could just really light everything up on fire. And, we don't keep everyone safe.
Yeah, we want that. We want you guys. Yeah, we want everyone to have a good time hiking around and stargazing. There's just all these magical experiences to have, and in the sequoias. And like I said, once you go there, it steals your heart, and you just want to keep going back. But I want to ask you before we bring Gary on, Denise, where are you sitting right now? Are you able to see any trees? I mean, where's your office based out of?
I'm actually in Springville, which just is at the base of the foothills, and so I can look up the mountain and see snow from my office window, which is a beautiful view in the wintertime. And it's right at the base of the foothills, so it's only a short drive up to, 4,000-foot elevation where I can start to see the beautiful trees up the Tule River Canyon.
Nice. Cool. You're in apple country, too. You get apple pie out there.
Yeah, I am. Springville. Yep.
Go get some apples. So that's the thing with the forest. So, we talk about Sequoia and Kings Canyon, and then the forest and the giant Sequoia Monument, they all kind of, merge together at some point. But this is more of the southern part where you are of the forest, right? So that's like if you're coming out of Springville or Porterville or even, pretty much those are the main two gateways, right, communities into the forest.
Yeah, to my area, we also have part of the forest down in Kernville and Kern County area. But when you go up through Porterville and Springville, you'll go into the southern portion of the Giant Sequoia National Monument, which is part of the Sequoia National Forest. If you go on the north part of the Giant Sequoia National Monument, you'll run into the Hume Lake Ranger District up Highway 180, and that's a route into Kings Canyon. Part of Kings Canyon is actually under the forest jurisdiction, but, the visitors don't necessarily need to know where they're crossing between the forest and the park because we all have opportunity for recreational activities.
Yeah.
Just there are a few differences. For instance, in the forest, you can take your dog on a trail, where in the park, you're restricted to keep your dog in the parking lot. So there is a few differences and differing opportunities. You might find an interpretive trail with signs and maybe even an interpretive park ranger there on staff in a park trail. However, in the forest, we don't have that type of personnel available, and we have signs in some areas, but it's more of a do-it-yourself opportunity in the forest where you might find interpreter in the park that can guide you along that trail.
I think it's a nice balance that you're all kind of, it's, having that, it's kind of like a nice buffer zone for animals too, like, wildlife.
Absolutely.
Having, the forest next to, the parks, I think is just a nice balance for everybody, for the environment as well as the people. I'm going to bring Gary Rogers on. He is the Communications Director of Sequoia Parks Conservancy, so taking care of Kings Canyon and Sequoia National Parks. I encourage you to go to their website. They have so many cool programs to get involved in. It is sequoiaparksconservancy.org. Welcome to the show, Gary. How are you?
Thank you, Lisa and Nancy. I'm doing really well and excited to be on the show.
Yeah, we are super happy to have you on the show because I think what you guys are doing is super cool. Really you work on the protection side, but you're also working in the education side. So it is for both parks, right? From what I was looking at on your website, that you have programs for both sides, but also you seem to be working on also helping with building trails and all kinds of things, and even bear boxes to protect people's food.
Yeah, that's correct. So we work with both parks, and we do a lot of education programs, but we're also one of our goals is fundraising to support programs within the parks, and that could be the bear program or trail restoration. Accessible trails is a big feature. We have some really amazing accessible trails in both parks, and as well as the Crystal Cave and other tours and custom tours and things you can do in the park.
Very cool. And so Crystal Cave, this is a neat experience, and it's a beautiful hike down to the cave. I remember waterfalls and lilies, those beautiful lilies, and then all of a sudden you're in this cave, and I feel like we're in like Sinbad the Sailor Land for some reason. I don't know what just took me back there. It's just really magical, and I know that's a big highlight for visitors coming to the park. Can you tell everyone a little bit about that experience, and when is it open for people to experience it?
Sure, and the Crystal Cave is an amazing attraction at the park. It's a truly unique resource and one of a couple hundred of known caves within the park, but this one has been made to be fully accessible. And actually, we're developing some deaf and hard of hearing assisted tour things through a grant.
Oh, wow.
So we'll have that in place later this year. The cave is open from May 25th to September 30th, and it's a cool. very popular. You can buy tickets online through rec.gov, and if you search for Crystal Cave, you'll find some links there. And it is a very popular tour, so be sure to purchase tickets in advance and make sure you give yourself plenty of time to get there.
And also, aren't you working on a new education center for the cave?
Yeah, so there is an education center there. It's small and it's rather old. So one of our projects we have is to update that facility and make it a little larger to accommodate some more people, because we do I think we get 60,000 to 70,000 visitors to the cave a year.
Wow.
Depending on the opening season. And we're working on raising money to update that facility. so that we can offer more kind of educational, interpretive materials in that space.
Very cool, very cool. It's such a neat thing too, and I remember having to sterilize my shoes or something, so we didn't bring things in to hurt bats or something when we went in there. Is there going to be any exhibits on the bats and protecting them, do you think, once it's open?
there is the tour guides at the cave will talk to you about I believe it's white nose syndrome, which is it's a disease that it can be spread to the bats that live in the caves, and it comes from other caves. So that's one of the things you look for if you've visited a cave recently. They want you to really clean off shoes, and so that is a big an important part of the education of the cave, is letting people know.
That's something we're learning about, like in all parks these days, is to wipe your shoes off before you set foot at all. Even here in Saguaro National Park, we have to brush off our shoes before going on a trail so we don't bring in invasive species. So it's it's interesting to look at what we can do as visitors to be part of the conservation movement, just simply by one thing, cleaning your shoes.
Yeah, and it's nice to be made aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's something relatively new that in Saguaro at least.
You would be amazed at how much just outside material gets into the caves from the tours. And one of the things we have every year for our members is called Lint Camp, which it's kind of like an exclusive tour for members, and they come in and they restore and clean up all of the lint and garbage and just little bits of stuff from the outside world that makes its way into the cave, and it's amazing how much they pull out of the caves during that cleaning session.
Wow, how neat. I mean, it's cool to get it out. I mean, to keep things clean, and that's one of the things about don't take things home. And I know you can bring a pine cone out of the forest, but you can't in the park. If I got that right, Denise, before I get into trouble, and Cynthia's going to get mad at me if I get it wrong.
Yeah, you need to make sure that if you do pick up a pine cone or two, that's fine in the forest, but certainly not in the park.
Okay, and you're the one who showed us how small those cones are. Like for sequoia trees, like they're tiny. And you get the sugar pine, it's like this monster cone. And
a lot of people think those great big sugar pine cones that they see laying on the side of the road are giant sequoia cones. But yes, it's very deceiving. Those little teeny tiny things are actually the giant sequoia cones.
I actually put a photo of your hand holding the cones up on Instagram a few weeks ago, and and I was going through my photos of the sequoias, and I'm like, I really just need to come back and hug a tree, or try to, since they're so giant. But it was funny because I put you had 2 cones in the palm of your hand, or 2 or 3 of them up on Instagram, and people were like, "What? How are they so small?" You just wouldn't think that. It was amazing.
And actually, giant sequoias, the little cones, actually require some sort of instability, whether somebody steps on them or a bird picks it up and drops it. They require, or a fire, actually. Giant sequoias live in a fire-dependent ecosystem, so a fire is actually good for those little giant sequoia seedlings. The seeds depend on some sort of a disturbance to open up the cones and then pop out, and then they have a nice clear, debris-clear soil in order to grow and prosper. And actually where the fires were burning from a few years back up in the Hume Lake Ranger District, the Rough Fire, which burned in 2012, there is a bed of sequoia seedlings in that fire area beneath those giant sequoias, because now it's all opened up and there's just so many giant sequoia seedlings in there. It's tremendous.
That's exciting. I remember seeing some on the Trail of the 100 Giants, like little babies, and you were like, they're so little. And then you've got these giant ones, that just keep going up to the sky. How old do you think the sequoias get? Like when you're walking in a grove and they're way up there, we're amongst the wise old ones.
Those very, very big ones are 2,500 years old. So it's hard to imagine, and you wouldn't want to cut one down to count the tree rings to find out for sure how old it was, but they're estimated to be 2,500 years old. I don't know how many years old the Grant tree is, but whether or not that's the oldest sequoia out there, I guess nobody really knows for sure. It's just
I know
the largest.
There's so many names on different trees and everything, and I found out recently that the naming of trees is not going to happen anymore because of wanting to protect the trees a little bit more from foot traffic. But I want to go back to you, Cynthia, looking at the tree experience, which is something people, it's like that iconic bucket list thing to do is when you go to Kings Canyon and Sequoia. Denise mentioned the General Grant tree, and that's actually, isn't that the nation's Christmas tree, right? And that's in Kings Canyon, that grove of trees.
Yes, it's the nation's Christmas tree, and it's also the only living shrine in memory of the men and women of the armed forces. So it's doubly special.
Okay, so that's I know, and you go to, and there's like this, isn't the centennial tree there too? Am I right with that, as I recall, going up through the grove? Or, I don't know. I might have
You're stumping me.
I'm sorry, what did you say? Did I get it wrong? Or?
Oh, I said I'm stumped.
You're
about the
stumped.
centennial tree.
I'm always stumped, I know, and that's what happens when you get up there. There's all these trees everywhere. There's Clara Barton trees, and then there's the General Sherman. The General Sherman's got to be one of the most visited trees, right, in Sequoia Park, Cynthia, for people.
Oh, definitely. It's definitely the highlight of our park. It's the largest tree by volume on Earth, so how special is it to have it in our own backyard here? So it's really, everyone comes for the big tree. And when they start driving up the General's Highway and they start seeing the giant sequoias on the side of the road, people usually stop. Sometimes they just stop on the side of the road because they think, this is the tree. This is the tree that I came to see. And we really have to educate people and let them know, I swear there's a lot of giant sequoias in this park. Keep going. There will be signage leading you to the largest tree, and that's the tree that you want to go experience and see.
We learned that it's basically everybody's in awe because their jaws are all down. Everybody's walking around Sequoia National Park with their jaw down.
You feel like a little tiny person.
It's a good
You feel
feeling.
like you're shrunk.
Yeah. It's amazing. And that's and also the General Sherman, that's in the giant forest, which is you really are walking amongst the giants up there.
I really want dinosaurs to come out.
I know.
From behind the tree.
Yeah. Crescent Meadow, I feel like that. Crescent Meadow is my favorite. Like, you guys have such amazing meadows. You think it's a favorite, and then you're like, oh, but now this is my favorite.
That's good for dinosaurs to eat.
Go munching.
Meadow, yeah.
We're going to go with the dinosaur theme today.
Yeah. When do the meadows start to get all lush and flowery? When does that happen, Cynthia, in Sequoia National Park in Kings Canyon?
Well, I think it depends on the weather that we get. But I would say springtime is a good. I don't know, Denise. Do you know if there's the best time to go?
It all depends on the weather. You're right.
Okay. So spring and just keep going up there.
And the bears?
When do the bears come out and play?
Well, also in the spring. And I don't know. I don't know if the warmer weather this year, if we don't get any more snow, if they'll come out of hibernation sooner this year. But we definitely did see a lot more cubs, little baby cubs last year in the spring and summer months. We definitely got a lot more reports of viewings near waterfalls in different areas of the park.
Cool. Oh, you said waterfalls. That's the thing. I remember Tokapaw Falls, hiking that. That was beautiful, and there's marmots all over there, too.
They're very
friendly. I think going on a hike and seeing waterfalls along the way or at the end is just a really rewarding experience.
Yeah.
Like you said, going down to Crystal Cave, I didn't expect to, go see a waterfall on my way down this, hike from the parking lot. Like, I just didn't expect to see a waterfall down there. So it's, having all these little waterfalls everywhere is really fun.
You know what's so interesting about that area? And Gary, this is true, right? You're kind of going you're like at the edge of the giant forest, and you're in the big sequoia trees, and all of a sudden you're kind of going down into more of like an oak kind of, like oak scrubland kind of deal. Is that kind of, it changes there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it might be on the edge of kind of a zone like that. It's interesting. The park, the cave was discovered by a couple of park employees who were kind of fishing and hiking around, and they felt a breeze hitting them in the back, and they climbed up the hill to investigate, and stumbled upon this, amazing cave system, and that was I don't have the exact date. That was quite a while ago. I think the 20s or so, maybe.
Wow. Wow.
And then a dinosaur came out.
See, Nancy's back to the dinosaurs. That's it. So I know that you do a lot of different, walks, and you can learn about history and nature. You have these adventures through the Sequoia Parks Conservancy, Gary. Do you do anything for dinosaurs so Nancy can go on a dinosaur trek?
No, there are no known dinosaurs in the park at this moment. But right now we do have snowshoe walks on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. On full moons, we have a full moon snowshoe, and this is at both Grant Grove and at Giant Forest. And I just got news from our people up at Lodgepole, and they said they got about 6 inches of snow last night, and looks like a lot of our snowshoes have actually just been boots walking through some thin snow, but I think we might actually have enough to do some snowshoeing.
That's cool.
For this moment. And those run into March. We have a few weeks off in March, and then as long as the snow provides. And we have a calendar of all of our events on our website if you want to go and check out that, and under the Field Institute. And we're kind of finishing up our winter programs, and then come spring, we'll have all sorts of we're looking at daily trips for hiking through the Giant Forest and through the Grant Grove areas. And also this year we're offering some longer trips too, possibly. So we're kind of developing these guided tours by an interpreter that will take you out for a backpacking trip and kind of show you the ropes and things like that. So.
Ooh, that's neat, because I think so many of us want to go do that, out in the backcountry in the wilderness area, and Kings Canyon has that magical wilderness area, and we don't quite know what to pack or what should we do.
Yes, and
what
to do when you see a bear. Exactly.
You run. No.
Yeah.
No, you don't. So there's all
don't
those
run.
questions. I know. Don't run. Okay, we better cover this. Gary, what do we do if we see a bear, or if we walk right up to it, hello bear, mama bear and babies?
If you prepared right, you have a bear whistle, which has kind of a high-pitched noise that bears generally do not like and will run away from. But yeah, don't run, and you're supposed to make some noise and shake your arms and kind of yell at it. And generally, I believe they're kind of skittish and then not really interested in confrontation. So, and some people, you'll hear people backpacking with jingle bells kind of on their backpack, so they're making a little noise while they're walking, so they don't surprise a bear. That's one thing you don't want to do. And so I see people with bells and stuff on their backpacks sometimes, and just try not to surprise them, and generally they will keep their distance on their own.
Okay. Yeah.
That's pretty true of most wildlife.
Yeah. Don't go here,
really,
kitty.
They really don't want to mess with people. They just really want to go the other way if they have a clear path to do so.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. Animals want to just. And do any of your programs teach people about the wildlife and the flowers and things like that, Gary, when people go out?
Yeah, absolutely. Our naturalist guided tours, they're pretty well informed about anything you want to know. If you want to know what's living under that rock, they can tell you, and what this tree is and how it relates to the ecosystem, and what type of animals are common to this area, and maybe even find some tracks depending on what you're looking for.
And the other thing I want to bring up is, we always think about parks and go hiking, and I know climb Morrow Rock, that's a big deal to do in Sequoia National Park too. There's all of that. We always think about that. But the one thing is that our national parks and our forests provide a whole other landscape at night, and it's stargazing is a huge deal, especially if you live in the city. If the chance of really seeing a sky totally star-studded, unless you're in LA and you're looking at the ground, you're at the walk of, the Hall of Fame or whatever it is, the stars, whatever that's called. I don't know. I'm better out in nature, but it's really hard to see, all the beautiful stars up in the skies and the Milky Way. And one way to do it is to go on a night hike. I don't know if you do it in the park, in the forest, or to go camping. But really, before we get into that, Gary, you have that huge Dark Sky Festival that happens every year. When does that come up?
We do. This year's Dark Sky Festival is September 7th through the 9th. And last year we had record attendance. I think over 3,000 or up to 4,000 people participated.
Wow.
And we have star parties and solar viewing. We have special speakers come in, the NASA astronauts, activities for kids, and we have things spread out all over both parks and also at the lake, who we're partners with Lake Kauai as well. Foothills.
Oh, Lake Kauai is cool. Yeah. So what about in the forest now, Denise? Camping. When does that open, and what do people do? Because that's a way to see the skies and the night stars, and really get out there, is to go camping. That's the ultimate for a park experience. Or a
Certainly
experience.
one. Yeah. Camping experience in general. Yeah, you get out there in the dark, away from the street lights and away from the, the communities of, which all that artificial light out there, and you can see the stars. You just got to get up in the mountains a little bit, and whether you're camping or out late in the evenings, it is a gorgeous view. Typically, the campground's open just prior to Memorial Day weekend. Like I said earlier, because of the drought this year, they may open a little earlier, but our campground concessionaire doesn't usually start up the water systems until there's no longer a threat of it freezing, because they certainly don't want any broken pipes in the campground. So I would expect it to open up again in time for Memorial Day weekend, and you can make a reservation. Let me give you the reservation number. It's 1-877-444-6777. And it's recreation.gov is the website for campground reservations.
Now, don't you have cabins out there, too, or some kind of is it for when you're backpacking that you have little, I always think of the Appalachian Trail where people have those little Ramada hut things that you get to, bunk up with other people or something.
We actually have yurts in some of our campgrounds, and that's something new since you were here visiting with me before.
I want a yurt experience.
Yes, we have some of those in the campgrounds, and those are also available on that same website or by calling that same number.
Cool. Oh man, I want to go yurting in the forest. That is awesome. That is awesome. So Cynthia, up in the park, I know that you've got Wasatch Lodge, right? And so you've got some other lodges up there that people can go to, and some cabins. But camping, I remember you got a beautiful campground. We've got water out there and everything where people can go splash around. And when do those open up? Or are they open year-round?
Yeah. We have some here in the foothills that are open year-round. Potwisha is open all year, but then reservations go into place starting in May. Pretty similar to the forest, a lot of our campgrounds open around May 23rd, and then they start closing back down in September. But again, reservation number is the same that Denise mentioned, same website, rec.gov. You can go on there and look for our campgrounds, over 1,200 campsites in our parks. So they can accommodate anywhere from 1 to 50 people, depending on the site. Yeah.
And the one thing I wanted to touch on, I know that there's been some changes in getting our pass. And I know that, you could get the year-round pass. And Cynthia, that also covers the forest, right? And some of our, BLM lands and things like that if you get the annual pass?
Yeah, so there's a park-specific pass that covers both of our parks, which is $50. And then there's a pass for $80 that covers all national, I think it's all public lands.
Yeah.
So that's $80. And that you can go from park to park and use that.
It is so well worth
deal.
it. It is,
That's
I know there
deal.
was some rate changes, but I'm serious. It is, I mean, you go out with your family for dinner, you're going to spend $80, and that's one night, whereas this is a year-round of just wonders, natural and historical.
I know.
So
it's really inexpensive.
yeah, and then you don't have to think about anything. But buy them in the park, because doesn't that help you with funding locally? Like if people buy them in the park, Cynthia, when they come in?
Definitely.
That it helps
And just to clarify,
budget.
our rates have not changed.
Oh.
Yes, there was from Washington a call for public comment on the rates changing, but nothing has been said since. So we have not been directed to increase our prices. So it's still $30 for the for 5 days to come into the park per vehicle. That has not changed. But if you're paying $30 for that one time that you're coming, why not pay the $50 for our park for the year? Or $80 to go to any park for the year. So definitely purchase them when you get into the park. That way, a portion of that price stays here in the park as part of our recreation fees that we get to collect and then also put back into the park.
Right on. And that's what, Gary, you're giving thumbs up to that, right? That's like
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the year-round pass is great, and one thing I love to tell people is come up to the foothills in the wintertime because it's one of the nicest times to be in the foothills. The weather's usually really nice and it's warm. You get up above the clouds of the valley, and also it's if like my wife, not into bugs really. There's not a lot of bugs in the wintertime, and it's a great time. You can hike around, and it's quiet time too. There's not a lot of visitors, and it's a great way to spend an afternoon.
We've had magical times in winter in parks, like Yosemite, Kings Canyon, Sequoia, and there's this peace. It's just so peaceful, and it's just so nice. I always try to get people to go midweek in parks, especially in the summer when I know that especially Sequoia in the forest. Try if you can go midweek to have that little balance. It's good for the parks and forests. It's good just for that extra bit of peace and quiet. If you can go midweek.
There are a lot of people who could go midweek that somehow they're still in that habit of going on the weekends and in the summer. And they just really forget that they can go midweek and go in different seasons and see the park from a different aspect.
It's fall is neat too.
Fall's
I was going to say, Cynthia, don't you have the shuttle that comes up in like is it May that the shuttle starts to bring in like people from Visalia and Exeter that don't want to drive up into the park, and it helps kind of with the environment.
That's right. No, it starts up on Memorial Day weekend, and it goes through this year. We are extending it. It's Labor Day, but we're extending it one extra week to cover the Dark Sky Festival so that people can come up for the weekend and take the shuttle. It's $15 per person if you take the shuttle from Visalia or any of the other stops on the way up to the park for the day. I definitely recommend it. Parking is very limited in the parks, and this year we got 2017 saw record visitations here in the park. We had over 2 million visitors in 2017, which was a record. And so you can only imagine how frustrating it is to go through the park on a weekend in the summer and not find any parking or anywhere to pull over to use the restroom. So just definitely help with your experience. You won't have that frustration. There's a whole shuttle system within the park that takes you to all of the key sites that you want to come visit, like the General Sherman Tree, Moore Rock. All of our key sites are accessible by shuttle, so take advantage of that, and you don't have to keep driving around the park, roving the parking lots for a parking space.
And if you're not good at mountain passes, it's a good idea too. I'm just saying, when you go up there, you don't have to white knuckle it up. And I think it's a really important thing because just in regards to pollution, how many bringing our cars, all of us bringing cars up. It's just a step towards maintaining that ecological balance, as much as we can do on foot as well. Let's talk about trails. We're big advocates to get people to get out and take at least a 1-hour walk once a week at minimum, even if it's their neighborhood, their parks. And we really want people to understand that the parks and the forests, most public lands do have a place where it's an easier kind of trail, maybe a paved trail, an accessible trail, whether you're a mom with a baby in a stroller or if you're in a walker or a wheelchair. A lot of times there are actually these pathways, and it's something that I think sometimes gets kind of overlooked, and sometimes people don't go to parks because they may have to think that they have to be a top-notch athlete, which I am not. But I found many, many trails. So I'm going to ask each of you, what is your favorite trail? If you're going to take a 1-hour walk with anyone in the world, alive or passed on, so you could just sit and have a good conversation, who would you go for that walk with, and where would you go? So let's start with you, Denise, in the forest. Where are you going to take a 1-hour walk, and who are you going to go with?
I'm most certainly going to take my family. of all ages, from 90 down to 2 Trail of 100 Giants on the Western Divide Ranger District. Just up the hill from Porterville, about an hour and a half drive, is a fully accessible trail. It's about 1.3 miles long, so you can easily do that in 1 hour. And very neat to see along that trail is a couple of giant sequoias that had grown together fell on the trail in 2011. And since then, they have constructed a boardwalk along the giant sequoias that fell. And so they're laying on the side, and you can walk across the boardwalk perpendicular to or parallel to these trees that are laying on the ground. So it's a sight that you don't normally get to see when you're walking through a grove of giant sequoia trees. And these trees are huge. I mean, they're 17 feet in diameter, so they're huge. And it's very impressive. So that would be the place that I would suggest. And it only costs $5 to park. And so there's no entry fee, $5 to park. And so it's a great day for an hour's walk in the woods.
And there's a campground near there, too. You can go
camping.
There is,
right across the street, Redwood Meadow Campground.
See, that's the ultimate thing. You're going to take a 1 hour walk, have breakfast, and then do it again.
Yep.
So cool. So cool. Cynthia, where are you taking a 1 hour walk, and who are you going to go with?
I am going to take my girlfriends because we love girls' weekends, and we are going to – do I get one per park since I have 2 parks?
Sure. Why not? I'm never going to say no to a park ranger. That's just the law.
Well, in Kings Canyon, I love Zumwalt Meadow. It was one of the first hikes that I did in the park, and it's one of those lush green areas where you get to see water, you see green trees, and then you also see granite cliff faces. So the variation on that 1.5 mile loop just is amazing to me. So that was my Kings Canyon one. I think in the giant over here on Sequoia side, definitely the giant forest trail system. It has a lot of easy, more flat hikes to do. And, I mean, you can choose a 1 mile loop to like a 7 mile. You can definitely customize your experience there. And I feel like that's just a really easy place to go and walk as much or little as you want and still get that great experience of those giant sequoias. So it's just a magical walk.
And you do the Big Trees Trail. You go around the round meadow because it's round. You go around it, and it's so cool because there's water. There's all these little birds eating things, and we've seen bear and deer out there, and it's
so much fun.
Accessible for people. I mean, there's a disabled parking lot, and it's really an easy walk. And I just wanted to mention, if people go to nationalparktraveling.com, we've done a page for each trail that we're talking about. Big Trees Trail. We have a jigsaw puzzle with them and a video of these trails, a 1 hour walk video of the Big Trees Trail in the Giant Forest. We have one of Zumwalt Trail, and we've also got one of the Trail of 100 Giants, so you can check those out so people can watch them. And we didn't give you enough to, not do the hike. You have to go do the hike to see it all.
It's a teaser.
Absolutely. I love the Girls' Weekend Out, too. I think that is such a cool idea. We always think about Girls' Weekend Out. It's like, oh, you're going out with champagne brunches and la-di-da. It's so good to get out into nature. That's the best place to do any kind of gossiping. Just saying.
That's
get
right. No Wi-Fi, just straight gossiping in person and not being recorded.
Exactly. No phones. No phones allowed.
No phones that. And no one to hear you say whatever you need to say.
The trees will remember, though. They will remember everything you said. I know they will. Gary, who are you taking a walk with and where?
Well, I'm going to definitely take my wife and kids, and also any friends of mine living in northern California or out of the country who might be traveling California. I always tell them, hey, take the detour to come up. You won't regret it. And one of my favorite places, and you mentioned it earlier, is Tokopah Falls, which is really easy to get to. You just go up to Lodgepole and hike out the back of the campgrounds, and you'll hit it. And it's a little longer than an hour, but I like it because it's a nice, it's a mellow climb. You got a great view of the watchtower. These big giant cliffs, and there's a couple areas where you can walk down to the river if you want to kind of poke around the river as well. And then of course, there's nothing like the big payoff at the end with the big waterfall. And I was just up there last weekend, and the waterfall was frozen, and the rocks are all white. It was really, really beautiful, and it was really a fun time.
That is super cool. That's super cool. Yeah, I love that. It wasn't frozen when we were there, and it was just so. I remember it getting warm. It was like the end of March, I think we did this the trail and hang out with marmots, and this little kid started yelling at Nancy, "You're not supposed to be near the marmots." And the marmot came to check out Nancy, but you're not supposed to get close to the animals.
They just walked right up.
Oh, it is Marmot Central up there at the end by the waterfall. It's amazing.
They're not really, they don't care about people.
And I know. And if you want a wake up call,
your belongings.
they are neat. But if anybody wants a wake up call and you've been hiking and you think it's warm, go take your shoes off and put your feet in the river and see how warm that water is, because it isn't warm at all. That water is cold, man. That was a big shock. That was like, if you're not awake, that will wake you up.
You definitely don't want to swim in it.
That is cold. That water is cold.
We want to keep people
cold.
away from the water.
Oh, oopsie. Okay, everybody, away. Away, do not do it. Do not do it. Be careful. Yeah, because you don't know what the current's out there. You never know. So be careful of that. I want to thank you all for joining us. It's been super informative and exciting. We want to get out there and go hiking. I can smell the forest, literally, talking to the three of you. I feel like I'm there. Everyone, again, if you go to discoverthesequoias.com, that will link you through to the forest. It will link you through to the parks and to the different gateway communities, and that's definitely something to do when you go hiking around. You're going to work up an appetite. Go downtown and go have some good food. There's breweries opening up everywhere, apparently, so there's a lot going on in those towns, too. Also, Cynthia, again, I want to give your website. It's nps.gov/SEKI for Sequoia and Kings Canyon. And then for Denise over at the forest, go to ss.usda.gov/Sequoia. What's the camping one again, Denise, for both the parks and the forest?
Recreation.gov.
Oh, recreation.gov, everybody. Easy to remember. Go get your yurts and your campgrounds. And then also for the Sequoia Parks Conservancy, great calendar of events and ways to pitch in, right? And Gary, you don't mind if people call you and say we want to donate money towards a different project, right? That's something you're looking for, too?
Absolutely. You can donate to a number of different projects directly or for best use through our website as well.
Okay, everyone. So sequoiaparksconservancy.org. Thank you all for joining us, and we're going to play a song called Wind Through the Leaves because you're in the forest. So we thought we'd have to play a forest song for you. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Happy hiking. We'll see you when we get back up there. All right.
You bet. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Everyone, again, here is Wind Through the Leaves. It's from May Edwards. She did a 4-CD compilation called Starlet and Saint, and this song is called Wind Through the Leaves, and it's off of the 4th album called Grace. So enjoy that, and then we're going to Washington. I could go hiking to that.
Well, I felt like there were leaves falling.
I know. It's
They're
pretty.
just like floating
It's
down.
one of my favorite songs she's done.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone that was Mae Edwards. You can go to mayedwards.com. I like to call her Mae West, and she doesn't mind that either. You know, but Mae is awesome. She's really that's 4 albums she's done and called Starlet and Saint, and it touches on the topics of duality. Because she used to be a little punk rocker too. You know, that didn't sound like a punk rocker, but
no,
she was. So check it out, mayedwards.com. That was Wind Through the Leaves, and it's off of the 4th album, Grace. Okay, so now it's time to talk about Whidbey Island, nature, history. There's wine.
Yay.
There's wine, which means the wine queen is joining us next, so stay tuned. The Wine Queen is back on Big Blend Radio today. Hillary Larson, she's a travel and wine writer, and she is joining us to talk about all of her adventures on Whidbey Island in Washington State, and I mean all of them. We're going to get the lowdown. Apparently she went wine tasting. She ate local food. True local foodie adventures. Got some history as always, and got a nice natural escape out into the forest and water areas. She went to Deception Pass.
Wonder why they called it that.
Yeah, I want to know the scandal on that.
Yeah.
Everyone, her article on this beautiful destination will be featured in the June and July issue of Parks and Travel magazine, but you don't have to wait for that. You can go to nationalparktraveling.com now and just look in our Washington section or just type in Whidbey Island and you'll find it there. But also, along with traveling and writing about her travels and her wine tasting, Hillary's also a wine educator. She's a sommelier and co-owner of North Winds Wine Consulting. You can also go to northwindswineconsulting.com. She's got a great blog there. And she's on Twitter at Northwindswine. She's on Facebook under Northwindswine. And guess what she's on Instagram as?
What?
Northwindswine. See?
Really?
Yes. Welcome back, Hillary. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. How are you guys doing? It sounds like you're
doing
having a
good.
wonderful
You know,
day
hey,
so
that
far.
song, Wind Through the Leaves. We should have
that
that
was beautiful.
Wind Through the Grapevine. And actually a little touch of Pink Floyd in there. I was kind of thinking, like, that's kind of got a little Floydish vibes, you know. Hey, there it is. But yeah, I thought that should go with your company name, North Winds Wine.
There you go.
Winds.
Always.
Yeah. So when you were up in Whidbey Island, I mean, did you get some northern winds up there?
Yes, we did. And unfortunately, well, in some ways, unfortunately, there were some of those horrendous forest fires, you know, that we had a lot of those out west this year. And I was there in September, and they were having some really bad fires up in Washington State. So the first day I arrived, it was a little hazy. I mean, the sunsets were phenomenal with all that smoke in the air, but it cleared up pretty quickly, thank goodness. And, some winds, especially on the ferries. But I love standing on the front of a ferry and just cruising through the islands, and that's my kind of wind.
Okay, so when you're on a ferry, I know that this is not in New York, but don't you want to sing "Let the River Run"? And like get Carly Simon and what was it, Dolly Parton? What was that movie? 95.
Well, there was Funny Girl with Barbara Streisand, and she sang a song on a ferry, I do believe.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Okay. So now we could have a whole album of ferry music.
Ferry and wind singing repertoire.
I like this. Yeah, who needs sea shanties?
Ferry Cross the Mersey.
Yeah, Ferry Cross the Mersey. Yeah.
That's really going back.
I know. Ferry Cross the Mersey. Okay. We'll get normal around here. So let's talk about Whidbey Island because you've got quite a legend. It's pretty interesting looking at the history of this, and I didn't realize about. You think about Oklahoma and the Homesteading Act, and people going across the country. There was that race. Everybody get on their horses and ride. There was like 10,000
Very
people.
Famous, yes.
Yeah. And now, like, you've got the Oregon Territory, which I've been learning about lately, and again, you guys coming back from Washington State have been really getting me into history about understanding the English and the Spanish up there, and the connection also with Vancouver. And it seems like Whidbey Island is one of those where everything everybody kind of on that island at some point, like the whole history of the Puget Sound. And then you've got a historical reserve and a natural reserve out there that honors it. And I'm taking the long way of saying this because I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Eby or Ebby? Like, I don't want to get it wrong.
It's pronounced Eby. I know, it's hard to tell from the spelling, but they pronounce it Eby.
Okay. Okay, because I now say Camano Island. I've got that right over the last few interviews. It's not Camano, it's Camano Island. So anyway, so Eby. So yeah, he found it, and so he was there in 1850s, but then it wasn't really developed until the 70s. So this is it's kind of like a newly developed island almost.
Yeah, I mean Whidbey Island has been charted since Captain Vancouver and his crew on the HMS Discovery first sailed into the Puget Sound, what we now call Puget Sound, in northwest Washington in 1792. But it wasn't until, it was mostly like the other islands that we've discussed in that region, it was inhabited mostly by native cultures. I think it was a Skagit group that were mostly in Whidbey because it was fantastic fishing grounds and foraging areas and great place for them to prepare their food for winter storage and things like that. So it was mostly indigenous peoples, and then until 1850, and it was part of the Oregon Territory, and there was a thing called the Donation Land Claims Act, which was actually just like the homesteader rush that you were referring to, but it preceded it. So this was to get, and oddly enough, it was white American citizens to immigrate from the East Coast and settle these Western territories. And they were given, these vast tracts of land, and they could have the land for free. And married couples, would get 2 parcels. And it was the first time in the history of the United States where women were actually able to have land in their name, which I think is rather interesting. And that's what started it. And they had to settle their land and live on it, I think, for 4 years. And most people laid their claims around 1850, and they had to actually be on the land and start living on it and working it by 1851. And that's what really got things going. And then it just sort of hummed along, growing fruits and vegetables and wheat. And, I mean, you think the islands of the Pacific Northwest would just be all covered in evergreen trees.
Right.
Most people envision the Northwest as evergreen trees and lots of rain. But Whidbey is situated in what's called the rain shadow of the very large Olympic Peninsula. And so it doesn't get as much rain. It's a little more temperate climate. And it's also a very large island. It's 55 miles long and I think around 34 or 37 miles across at its widest point. So, people knew it was there. It was used mostly for agriculture and a few homesteads. But yeah, it wasn't until sort of the 1940s when they built the Air Force Base there that things really started to hum on Whidbey.
How interesting! That's good. The hum of the plane, the propeller.
Yeah.
Good one, Hillary. Is it Friday wine time?
I didn't even know I was doing it. There you are.
I know, that was good. I caught that. I was like, she's got it.
I think that on the West Coast, when we're looking at world wars approaching, that there were a lot of places that were ignored, and then here comes the military.
And it's like, hey, this is a good
bases,
spot.
Yeah, because you needed to protect the coastline there.
Yeah, and an island is
smart. And it was built primarily as a refueling stop in a place where planes could take on supplies and bombs before they headed out over the Pacific, or a lot of the planes there were used to go up to the Aleutian Islands off of Alaska and patrol that section.
This is neat. So Eby, he landed there, and he started did he? I mean, this is. You said this was on a 55-mile scenic byway of this island. So that's all of Whidbey, as part of the scenic byway.
All of Whidbey, the whole length of Whidbey has a main road. and a main state highway. It's not a big highway like we think of here in California, but a nice, calm, peaceful highway. And it is part of the, I think it's the National Historic Byway or National Scenic Byway.
Cool.
I think it's the only island that has that accreditation to its road, and it goes right through Eby's Landing,
which is a preserve, a National Historic Reserve. And this is what's interesting about that. You know, when we talk about national park units, we have 417 of them, and it's, you know, we're still, you know, going, hey, there's 59 national parks like Yosemite and Sequoias that we were just talking about on the show. But then there's all these other ones, you know, that like we have forts and we have seashores and, you know, trails. And by the way, this year is the 50th anniversary of the Trails Act, the National Trails Act in this country. So going on a scenic byway, celebrate that by going on one because
well, there's lots of them in Eby's Landing, lots of beautiful walking trails.
I think these scenic byways and these historic trails are so important for the communities, you know, in travels, that you go on these routes and, you know, road trips and, you know, follow them and go to all these destinations, parks and their towns. But, you know, with this Trails Act, that's really neat. But this is the reserve. And I don't, you know, through the entire national park system, I don't remember seeing like reserve. Like that's a new one for me.
Yeah, well, Eby's Landing was the very first National Historic Reserve, and it was created in 1978. So this year will be their 40th anniversary. So they've got all kinds of different things cooked up to celebrate that, which is kind of interesting. There's a list of those events on their website. And it was designed to protect and preserve this community. So it was not just, you know, the natural aspect, it's also the human aspect, because it was virtually untouched. It stayed the same. I mean, when you go there, if you're going through the approaching, say, from Langley, which is one of the larger towns, and you come through the forests, and then as you head to the eastern side of the island, it opens up into this beautiful prairie. It's completely unexpected, really. It's this beautiful open prairie. And that's where a lot of these people settled in the early 1850s with their small plots of land and grew their different crops. And that is part of the reserve, along with wooded areas and different buildings. There's a few historic buildings that date back to the 1850s that are still there. And it also is, as I say in my article, it's a living, breathing National Historic Reserve, because a lot of the land that is there is still owned by the ancestors of the people who settled it in the 1850s. So a lot of this is still in private hands. And some of it belongs to the National Park Service and the state and various other entities. But the majority of it is private, and people still have their farms and ranches and organic farms and, you know, bee aviaries and all kinds of things, and fishing, and there are towns. And so all of this works together as this living, breathing historic reserve. It's fascinating.
That is so cool. Point Reyes National Seashore is kind of like that, too. They still have some of the old dairy farms. And it changes, though, because after, like, a certain part of the lease, not next, like always a lease, but some of the companies do actually slowly move out, depending on the age and if they're still farming there. So when you're at a seashore, you'll be driving around, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of a dairy farm. And the cows are California happy cows walking around, chewing on grass, and then you go around the corner and you see tule elk, and you're like, what? And then you'll see an elephant seal. You're like, how does this all work? But it does. Everybody, it's so cool to have that balance. And so there are some parks like that, and when you see that history be part of it, I think that's what, you know, it's that integrity of place, that sense of place we're always talking about on the show, because that's the reason for travel, is to see something unique
definitely.
To its heritage and its natural state, too. So this sounds so beautiful and peaceful. Is it quiet?
Oh, it is. It's very quiet. It's very peaceful. I really didn't want to leave. It was heavenly. It was just very relaxing, and you know, you're only, about 30, I think it's not even 30 miles from Seattle. It's really close to, I mean, you fly into SeaTac Airport, you get on the SeaTac shuttle bus, and hop on the ferry, and you're on Whidbey in less than an hour and a half. I mean, it's easy to get to, but you really do feel like you're an entire world away. And it's just a completely different pace of life, and I don't know, it was wonderful. I can't wait to go back, really.
Are you going for the conference this year?
I was hoping to go for the conference, but unfortunately it doesn't fit into my schedule. But I may just sneak up there with my husband and have a little vacation one of these days.
Cool.
That sounds like a good idea.
Take me. You know, all these stories that you've come back, you and Linda Kassam as well, talking about this area, and it's just like, I know that, the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association is having their conference. I believe it's off the top of my head, May 6th through 8th, if you're a travel writer.
I believe that is correct, yes.
I think it's in my head. Hey, I'm not bad for a blonde. Anyway, no, go to ifwtwa.org if you're a travel writer and check it out. But, looking at all the photos and hearing all the stories and everyone's adventures, from ziplining to breweries to wineries, the food just seems like that whole region that people really have this authentic lifestyle where it's about really understanding that whatever they put into the environment is going to come right back to them. And it's like this pristine way of living with nature and preserving history and living the history, actually being part of the island's ecosystem.
Oh, most definitely. And the people you meet who have these farms and restaurants and wineries and so on, so many of them are locals. And they may have gone away at some point, but they're just drawn back, and they're so, I think, because they can't find that type of life anywhere else but these islands. And then there are people that go there just for some other reason, go to visit friends or go on vacation, and they're just drawn back. It's like the island captures them and won't let them go. It's a wonderful mix, but you're right. They're all really dedicated to keeping things as much as, the same way as they have been. Not that they want to blot out any modernity, and that definitely they do appreciate the modern world, but they want to keep that sense of place, that sense of history, that sense of community, and just that link that they have to their land and to the sea and to this way of life. And it's really, really lovely.
I want to go.
It sounds like it should be a TV series.
I know Nancy wants a TV series out there so bad. Yeah. She does. I think it would be really.
It'd be interesting.
I want to do that because you've got all the farmers too.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing. So I was looking at, so you go out here, have this nature experience, these beautiful views, and then at the same time you've got all these farms going on, but you've got a state park too. I wanted to touch on that real quick. You have the Deception Pass. So what is Deception Pass? I mean, this number one looks so beautiful.
It is. It's
that bridge is iconic.
Gorgeous, yeah. I mean, most people know Deception Pass for the famous bridge that was built in the 1930s, and by the CCC. We were talking about last time. I think we were talking about Orcas Island and Moran State Park. So, that was done by the Civilian Conservation Corps, and it's this incredibly high bridge that goes over this pass between the northern tip of Whidbey Island and neighboring Fidalgo Island. And it's called Deception Pass, if I recall correctly, because for people who were exploring the area on the early ships, it looked as if this was a pass, a route to approach, to get from the outer islands towards the mainland. But it really is deceptive because it has these incredible undercurrents and whirlpools.
Oh.
And I think it was a deceptive pass. It wasn't a good pass for their ships. Nowadays, a lot of people who go kayaking love it because of the challenge of those whirlpools. And that's a very popular activity up there.
Oh, how cool.
Lisa, you'd be good at it because you go in circles anyway.
But I do that anyhow. I mean, anybody knows.
Spin round.
Me, I do that. And I'm good at swirling wine.
Well, that's much more important.
That's important. That is important. But how neat.
That's a more useful life skill.
now there's camping there because Nancy and I are thinking of doing like a, I don't know, but there's something going on with
brewing.
Something brewing with Nancy and Lisa and the idea of an RV. So I'm just saying. So there's camps. You never know. I don't know. We may have to go like on a, like, you know, one of those rent a Airstream or something. I don't know. But there's this kind of thing brewing with us about.
We're getting itchy feet.
We got itchy feet, and it's like
I
it's
know
bad.
you've been in one place so long this time.
Yeah.
Well, it's about to change.
Not right.
But it's gonna. But I think we're just thinking, like, you know, how cool it would be to just traipse around and I don't know. I'm looking at campgrounds now because I'd like to wake up and look out and I'd like to see an orca with my morning coffee.
Thank you very much.
I'm just feeling like camping is necessary right now. So that's a cool thing for people out there.
Well, there you go. I'm pretty sure I saw on the Whidbey Island website that they have a list of campgrounds and campsites and of course the state parks and the other parks in the islands, they have camping as well. RVs though I'm not sure, but the website.
I don't know if you can do that on a ferry. That would be interesting. Can you take an RV on a? They took a school bus on the ferry on In Pursuit of Happiness. That documentary. They took They went to Alaska on a ferry. No.
I think it depends on the size of the ferry and the size of your RV.
Well, I don't know, because now we're also talking about Lisa trying to drive something like that, so that's a whole other deal. But
that's a comedy series.
I know that would be that's a whole thing. But now you stayed at some really beautiful places out there. I mean, looking at your photos, everywhere seems to have this sense of place. Feel like you're at the water, but the gardens.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I want to go just to sit in their gardens, and I'd like to have a spot of tea with it too.
Yeah. Beautiful gardens, terrific landscaping. When you go into towns like Langley and Coupeville, there's beautiful hanging baskets, and it's gorgeous. It's beautiful and wonderful trees, and it's just a real combination of nature and these charming towns with their own little histories.
Do you feel like you're in a different
while
country?
away a day and poke around and go, ooh, what's down that little alley and what's around that corner? And you always find something.
See, it kind of looks European, and so I feel like did you feel like you were in a different country?
You do almost, and the people who live on the islands do think of themselves as islanders rather than mainland folk.
Flat feet people.
Yeah, going to the mainland. Like when we lived in Julian up in the mountains, they'd go, okay, we're going to go down the hill or up the hill. It's like everything, and if as soon as you get to a desert, now we're rats. So there we go. Yeah. We're just rats. And then chew on saguaro cactus.
I did stay in some wonderful accommodation on that trip. It was we were very spoiled.
Yeah. So when you were on Whidbey, I was just looking at some of the places you stayed, like the Coachman Inn, and so this is like a really cool, like a motor inn, and I love to find motor inns because they're going away. So you must experience this while you can, people.
Oh, definitely, because it reminded me a lot of my childhood and my youth and the family road trips we would take.
Yeah.
And these were the kinds of accommodation that we would usually stay in. And it's one of those beautiful, I think it was built around the mid-1970s. And again, it's got that fabulous landscaping with the evergreens and the rhododendrons, and it's beautiful. And it's all stretched out, and so it takes up a lot of space. So you don't feel like you're closed in like you do in some more modern motels. The rooms are really big and comfortable, and they have everything you need. And you go back to the lobby in the morning, get your breakfast, and it's wonderful. And it's in the town of Oak Harbor, which is almost in the center, near the center of the island. So it makes if you're driving or you're renting a car, there's a car rental place actually not far from the hotel. So if you're going to be traveling around by car, it's a great middle of the island place to stay, and then you can just radiate out on day trips.
And this is also part of the military history. It was in Oak Harbor. So
it is.
That. Yeah.
It is. And yes, that's where the Whidbey Island Naval Air Station is.
If there's any kind of military port or station, I will find it when I get lost. I do. I always end up on a base somewhere.
Somehow.
And I'm like, hello, officer, soldier.
Well, you'd be in heaven in Oak Harbor, and then
I'd do very
there's a wonderful little museum there that's all run by volunteers, and it's all about what was called the PBY, which was the Patrol Bomber Consolidated Aircraft Corporation, and they were these amphibious planes that they used during the war. Mostly, again, up in the Aleutians. And the museum's just fascinating. They have an outdoor area and then an indoor museum with all these interactive exhibits. And it really helps you learn and understand about the whole history of the Naval Air Station and Whidbey's role during the Second World War and continuing on as well. And then they also have the old part of town. And it's called Pioneer Way is the main street, and it's got lots of great shops and galleries and restaurants and places to have a nice coffee, because you have to drink lots of coffee while you're there. It's just part of the deal.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about coffee because apparently it's not just Seattle, and it brewed out on the islands. Uh-oh. Can you tell this is not a wine day, but it is later? We're moving towards it. We're moving towards it. But what I was interested in is the oak trees there, because I've never heard of them. The Gary oak trees, and so they're like the only native oaks there?
Yeah, I had never heard of them either, which is kind of strange because I grew up in Vancouver. But they're the only oak tree that's native to British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, and I think parts of Idaho. Wow. And they're absolutely gorgeous. And the town of Oak Harbor is named after these trees. And they were named after a fellow who was a bigwig in the Hudson's Bay Company, I think it was, whose last name was Gary. And so they named the trees after him.
His name was Gary.
I know, yeah. Gary. No, we know someone who they're just not called Gary. Gary. And sorry, now you got us in that mode. I had to think. I couldn't help it. But, okay, so when you were out there, and part of your article says that on a clear day you can see the Olympic and Cascade Mountain ranges. I mean, that is cool. Is that? You're in an island. You see these mountains. You've got oak trees. You've got orcas. You've got boats, wooden boats. You can go kayaking. You've got the other thing, too, about Deception Pass, that state park. I have to mention, you've got a gazebo photo for our friend in there.
I do? Oh, I didn't even know I had a gazebo.
I know. I can't stop
okay, is that counted as a gazebo, the picnic shelter?
Yeah, that's counted.
Okay.
Gazebo.
Well, there you are.
Yeah, he's good. I'm going to have to give him a heads up, because we have a friend, Jim Ostick, who's like a gazebo dude. And now all I can see is he has a blog dedicated to gazebos. Well, when he cycled the perimeter of the country, and all of a sudden he started seeing gazebos, especially back east, and got into the fact that there's just an important part of American culture of people sitting out of the sun and be able to be outdoors, have food, or maybe a band is playing in a gazebo, and a lot of them are going away, being turned into different kind of things, but there's people that are into rest stop areas on highways because they used to be really artistic. And there's a guy writing a book just on that, so it's pretty cool. But the gazebo thing, what I liked is it was the office or the gazebo or the shelter, but the roof had ferns growing. It had its own rooftop garden.
Yes, that was down on the beach under Deception Pass. So you walk down through these beautiful old-growth forests and with all the moss-covered trees and the ferns, and then you get down to the beach, and that's where this picnic area was with the gazebo. And, it's one of those really classic CCC structures, with the local logs, and, it's a classic.
We have one of those here in Saguaro Park. Like that.
I'm sure you do. I think you find them in most of the parks where the Civilian Conservation Corps did the construction, don't you?
We find a lot of those out in the desert because we need you need it out for the rain out in the Pacific Northwest, and over here we need it because of the sun, because it gets brutal, But so let's go to the coffee thing, because that was a big deal over here. So this was in Coupeville. So this was near, it's near, everything's near each other, right? So Coupeville is like that little town, and you just got Victoria era architecture, so that's really cool too.
Coupeville is charming. And Coupeville is actually located inside the boundaries of E.B. Landing National Historic Reserve. And it's on a cove, a beautiful cove called Penn Cove. And a lot of people might go, where have I heard that Penn Cove? Well, it's very famous now because it's the home to Penn Cove mussels, which are the famous shellfish farm that exports its beautiful mussels all over the place. But it was named after an admiral. Was he an admiral? No, sea captain named Coupeville, who was the first one to really settle and start up this town. He bought some land and started this little town of Coupeville. And, most of the buildings date to sort of the 1850s, 1860s, 1870s. And its biggest claim to fame, and everywhere you go in Coupeville, you'll be reminded that it was the town where they shot the movie Practical Magic with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful. I mean, it's such a beautiful. I always like watching that. Once going, where is that? I want to go there. Where is that? Now I know where it is, and it has the best soundtrack.
Yeah,
because
and
Macy
I think
Gray
it
is
was,
on there.
The town in the movie was, if I remember correctly, was supposed to be in New England somewhere, but the area there, that town, that seafront in Coupeville, is still retains so many of its old buildings, and it has that New England charm because most of the people who settled in there were New England seafaring people. And so that's why it had that look to it that I guess the filmmakers were trying to capture.
I thought it was in Rhode Island or something, just off the. I didn't think it would be on that side like you're saying, because it did look New English, and it's not
movie magic.
Yeah, and Practical Magic, the soundtrack, it is super cool. And Macy Gray is not on that. Macy Gray is on the other one that I was thinking of that I can't remember the name on, but. I know. I love soundtracks because you always get like different things come in. But Practical Magic has like Nick Cave and it's got Stevie Nicks, and it's a good album. That's how I remember movies, is by music. But anyway, getting back to this place looks really, really charming. But you said so. There's coffee there. It was started in the '60s over there.
Yeah. Well, everybody who thinks of Washington State, again, you think of Seattle and the rain and coffee. I mean, it's Starbucks and Seattle's best, but it was actually the whole craze, the whole thing started in this little town of Coupeville, because the fellow behind it, his name was Jim and Dave Stewart, these two fellows, and in 1969 they bought this little tiny building, little coffee shop on the main drag in Coupeville, and they called it the Wet Whisker, which I don't know, I think they should have kept the name, but they changed it in 1990 to Seattle's Best. And Seattle's Best went on to, be one of the forerunners of this whole gourmet coffee revolution.
Wow. And so here it is. So everybody thought it started in Seattle, but it started with Seattle's Best in Coupeville, outside of Seattle, 30 minutes away. Everybody.
That's right. And when you walk down the street in Coupeville, you'll see the little shop. It's now it's still a coffee and ice cream place, and there's a historic marker plaque. You'll find them all throughout the town, but you'll see one on this building telling the little story about the history of Seattle's Best coffee and the Wet Whisker.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. That's really
I know, isn't it?
You've got a bakery too. You got a bakery right next to the coffee shop. Now that makes sense.
Of course.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Well planned.
I like that. Sourdough. And then so you said there's the oyster catcher for dinner, and but also Lavender Wind. So this
Lavender
is like a
Wind,
shop.
yes. They have a lavender farm that's just on the edges of E.B.'s Landing, and they have a really charming store. And when you walk through the door, it's literally take your breath away. I thought I was back in Provence or something. It's this old house, and it's just filled with all these fabulous lavender products.
Really, I see that's at lavender fields. Now you're getting, prairies, and then you've got orchards. And going back to E.B.'s Land, I did want to touch on the farms there, because this is really interesting. When you talk about pollen earlier, like bees and apiaries and things, but the pollen analysis, I want to know about this from the Ekholms.
I know.
they've got heritage fruit trees and animals and stuff. That's a really big deal to keep.
They do, and he's got
strains.
these. What are they called? They're these big Scottish cattle. The
longhorn
Scottish cattle, and they're really
cool.
friendly.
They're
but
cool.
his main focus is on the bees and the honey, and that is the main thing that they have there, and it's just wonderful. What he does is his name is Bruce Ekholm. It's called Ekholm Farms, and their aviaries are inside Eby's Landing. And he is able to track. He sends samples of the honey, I think somewhere to some university in Texas, and they analyze it, and they analyze the enzymes in the honey, and then they can tell and do pollen studies, and they can tell exactly what plants the bees visited and collected pollen from that turned into the honey.
Wow. That's going to be really fascinating
it's this
on all levels.
Intense analysis, and it'll be different during different times of the year and different years. So it's almost like wine in a way that every vintage is different.
It's like a closed ecosystem too.
So we could go honey tasting.
Yeah, because when they say, this is wildflower honey, how do they know? Depending, and if you're doing. When you're not in that kind of closed ecosystem, it's really hard to do. I mean, you've got water around you, so how far is the bees going to hop over to the mainland kind of thing, unless they catch the ferry? Just saying. But it's something also to be able to tell what if the bees are picking up or from organic vegetation, or are they picking up chemicals? And I know from the area you're covering, Whidbey Island and Camano and Coupeville and all these amazing places, how organic and environmentally conscious these places are.
Yes.
And so to me that's really the interesting thing. Like if they did that study somewhere else, I bet you'd come back with like night and day.
A lot of genetically modified.
I know.
Stuff.
I'm just going like this is going to be I would geek out on stuff like that. I want to go there and hang out and look at the pollen thing and see that. There too.
And he puts the information on the label as well. So when you buy your honey, it tells you what plants contributed to the making of that honey.
Like today, I want orange blossom. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
yes, interesting. Well, yeah,
but it's a mix. I mean, the honey we tasted, or one of the honeys we tasted, was quite recent, and that spring it had been quite cold, so the apple trees in their orchards hadn't blossomed at the same time as they usually do, so the bees had to go looking for other things. So they got pollen from things like mustard and prunus and clover and snowberries and roses, and absolutely wonderful and super fragrant. I mean, I'm addicted to that honey now.
I want to go. I know. And the other farm out there, you went and visited because you're looking at, here's your cattle out there. So you had Three Sisters Farm, and it's neat because you can go and buy like grass-fed beef, like just fresh from the farm, like truly, true goodness. If you're not mean to have that, that's cool. That's cool.
It's called Three Sisters Farm, and it's a fabulous story. And again, this is where you've got these generations after generations of people who've lived there, and it's this husband and wife, Ron and Shelley Mazzell, and their 3 daughters. And all their daughters are volleyball players and all went off to college, but they didn't go off somewhere else or stay in the state where they went to college. They have all returned home, and they all run the family business. They've been, as they say, owners of the business since they were little tiny kids. So they are dedicating their lives, and now the eldest daughter has married and started a family, so there's a whole new generation that's going to grow up on that farm.
Wow,
that's cool.
And now when you the dining there, I know that we've talked. Chef Natras has been on our show, which was awesome. Just talking about how the farm to table truly is. You said that, and I don't know why I thought it was bakery, but I went there. I saw sourdough, and I love sourdough. But apparently, Chef Tyler Hansen from the Oyster Catcher, he makes his own bread, but from his own wheat. That's
isn't that cool?
That's super cool.
You can't get much, more part of the food chain than that. Yeah, he grows it, and he started making this sourdough bread because in the winter, business was really slow. So he started making the bread, and they would sell it at the farmer's market. And this is in Coupeville, where he has a restaurant called the Oyster Catcher. Mm-hmm. And it just became, the bread was so popular that now they have this bread club. So you can sign up online or go by the restaurant and sign up, and you can collect your fresh bread a couple of times a week.
Wow.
Nice.
And they also sell it. I saw it for sale. Three Sisters Farms also has they sell their grass-fed beef at the farmers market, but they also have a little shop, and they sell their things. But they also sell a lot of a whole huge selection of local artisanal foods. And lo and behold, what did I see? But Oyster Catcher sourdough bread for sale on their counter.
See, there it is.
Yeah,
That's
so you keep
cool.
running into these same names and businesses as you traverse up and down the island and go to all these different places.
Oh, man, I'm hungry now because like really good sourdough fresh baked
so
bread.
Good.
Oh my gosh, and like I can imagine the butter is not like some cubed stuff. It's like here's real butter out there because they've got cattle.
I haven't had my lunch yet. You're being really cruel.
I know. It's like, but this is terrible because we're not done. We're not done because apparently you had French food too in Oak Harbor. Scott Fraser at the Fraser's Gourmet Hideaway. I mean, now you French cuisine out there, so you must have been happy there. Yeah.
Yeah,
nice
he's
wine?
from Vancouver.
Oh, see?
Yeah, Scott Fraser, and he built the restaurant himself, which is rather unusual. So everything in it is exactly the way he wanted it, which for a chef is probably the idea of heaven, I would think.
Wow.
And he serves a cuisine it's French inspired and Italian inspired, and it's just good, beautiful food. It's a really relaxed atmosphere. It kind of looks a little like fine dining, but it's island casual. And he cooks in this wonderful open kitchen, and it's, I get so tired of hearing and reading about all these chefs that just scream and yell orders and throw things, and his kitchen's the exact opposite. It's very calm and it just flows, and I ordered the duck breast, and he showed me some little tips and tricks about how to cook a really perfect duck breast, and it was it was a really, really memorable meal.
And how did you enjoy when you were in Langley? How did you enjoy hanging out at Orchard Kitchen with Chef Natras with Vincent?
Oh my
what was that
goodness!
Like?
Oh, it was fabulous too. I just love when you get there, and in order to get to the restaurant, you walk through the farm, and there's these colorful chickens and some goats and the farm buildings, and of course all the fields and fields of fresh produce. And being there in September, it was, not as bountiful as it would have been there had I ventured out in, say, probably July or something. But and then this cozy little restaurant with the long tables. They serve all the meals family style, and it's a set menu that changes every week. And we sat at the counter, so we were able to watch them prep everything, and it was magic.
How cool,
and the
man!
food, all this local produce, and our first course was these. It was sliced golden and red beets, just sliced paper thin with local blue cheese, and goodness, it was just heavenly.
Listen, I'm getting hungry, okay?
thirsty.
I know. This is not good. But and then, really, my mouth is watering. I have to think about.
And his wife, who he met in Napa, if I remember, she's the sommelier there, and her wine pairings were just phenomenal.
See, yeah, you need to go back there and just remember to take us on a suitcase and throw us on the ferry, and we'll be happy when we get over there. I want to go. So now Primo Bistro, that was another place where you could enjoy wine, and that seemed to be another farm table, but they did a lot of meats, right?
Yeah, they do, and that's another place. It's in Langley, and the chef there, his name is, I'm probably going to totally mispronounce his name, so if he listens to this show, I hope he'll forgive me. Sebe Uranes, and he and his wife Jen, who has family on the island. That's how they ended up there, and they opened up this little restaurant called Prima Bistro, and he does cures his own charcuterie. He makes his own pickles. They do as much in-house as they possibly can, and it's upstairs in this little building right on the, I think it's First Street, which runs parallel to the bay, and or to the Sound, and you can sit out on this wonderful deck and look out at the water and enjoy a great wine list and wonderful food, and it was hopping when I was there. Actually, they're so popular. They've been around for 11 years, I think it is, at Primo Bistro. And then there was a little, I think it was a Chinese restaurant or something a few doors down that closed. And so they reopened it as a total seafood place called the Saltwater Cafe. And it's now really popular. And it's strictly seafood. And they have this great big chalkboard at the end of the restaurant, and it lists all the seafood that they got in that day.
Wow.
And then you can choose from that. Yeah.
It's like from boat to table. I like that.
Yeah.
Fresh,
just shy of
Whidbey,
I swear.
Wow. And then, okay, so you're talking about having, that beautiful deck out there now. The inn at Langley where you stay too. Apparently you can have your own private deck and look out to the water. Are you serious? Like I want my own private deck.
I'm completely serious. That talk about relaxing. I thought I was in another world. It's the inn at Langley is just a beautiful, beautiful. I say hotel, but it really feels more like a resort. It's that sort of driftwood kind of look, cedar wood, sort of bleached by the wind and the salt and the sea air, and it's built as almost like a terrace on the side of this cliff, and it overlooks the boardwalk that runs along the beach. And all the rooms have these little decks, so you can sit out there, and it's very private, and have your cup of coffee or your glass of wine, and they even give you nice little blankets so you can take them and snuggle up at night and sit out there with your beverage of choice and just listen to the waves. And the room is beautiful.
I can't stand it. I want to go now. I want to go now. I want it. I feel like a 2-year-old. I want it now. It just sounds so relaxing.
And even they have this, my room and I think all of the rooms, or most of them do, have these wonderful jacuzzi soaker tubs. And they have a window that looks out onto the water as well. So you can lay in your tub and look out at the sea.
What are you trying to do? This is like we need to go. Like that's
I know.
I'm like, this is
would you rather stay there or in an RV?
See now you see that's it. Okay, that's it.
I know where I'd rather stay.
I know. I'm with you. The RV just went out the window. See, boom, done. No, but I think for a road trip it would be cool for like
a little bit bigger car in a tent, and then stay in nice places or tent.
I want my own private deck with a glass of wine, but I want the local wine, which apparently you got to experience. But, this is what's interesting to me about the wine out in that area. Now, we've had wine from like Yakima Valley and more of the eastern parts of Washington that were just incredible, like heavy reds, more Vedres, and just really jammy, good wines. And then when we were in like the Oregon side, the coast, going up, the coastal area, they were doing like a lot of fruit wines and things like that. But then you were saying they were doing Pinot Noirs out there. I wouldn't have thought like on an island that there would be Pinot Noirs, and I don't know, for some reason I thought it would be more fruit wines, out that way.
Well, I was always under the impression for years, and I think most people were, that the wines on the western side of the Cascade Mountain Range in Washington State were not really made from a lot of fruit that was sourced from their own region, because it is a delineated wine growing area, or an AVA, but it's called the Puget Sound AVA. So it is recognized as a wine growing area, and it encompasses most of the northwest coast and the islands. But you think, oh, well, there aren't a lot of varieties that they can really grow there. And for many, many years, the wineries that did exist on the islands would bring in fruit from the eastern side, from the Yakima valleys and the Columbia Valley and so on, and they'd make the wines at their wineries on the islands. But there are some varietals that they were growing, and we touched on a couple of them, I think, when we talked about San Juan Island.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's one white variety called Cigareb and another called Madeleine Angevine. Excuse me. And they're both respected grape varietals. I mean, Madeleine Angevine comes originally from the Loire Valley in France, and they produce these really crisp and refreshing and fruit-driven white wines. And they're really dry, so they're absolutely perfect with all this local seafood and the Pen Cove mussels and the other shellfish that you get. But then I went to two wineries on Whidbey Island that both grow or both have locally sourced Pinot Noir. Whidbey Island Winery gets their Pinot Noir from a vineyard at the very southern tip of the island. And then another winery we went to called the Spoiled Dog. Gotta love that name.
I love that.
And that's all they grow is Pinot Noir. And it was absolutely terrific. I was very impressed at the quality.
Huh.
It's very much, it's not, some people think of Pinot Noirs and they think of, say, California or some of the Oregon ones that are quite full-bodied, medium to full-bodied. These are more like a lot of the ones that you find in Burgundy in France. Some of them are a little, they're more sort of earthy and these beautiful raspberry and fruit aromas and very, very finessed.
Man. Okay, so this is just getting, worse and worse. in a good way. In a good way, I want to say.
Just don't end, do they?
I know. It's like this is like a magical place. I mean, it's just really one of those, like a, magical destination. And I know everyone think about this, like spring, summer, it's going to be beautiful out there, too. Like everything's going to be, growing and all the veggies and everything. I want to go to the distillery, though, because that's another cool thing to get. Like you've got spirits. You got spirits on the island.
Yeah, and Washington State, I think I read somewhere that it's the state that has the most distilleries. I mean, who knew? And this one is absolutely terrific, and they embrace their local attributes as well. They use a lot of locally sourced berries to flavor their liqueurs, and they distill their own whiskey and vodka and rye, and then they make these liqueurs as well. And they're absolutely terrific. Their Loganberry liqueur was really, really good. And they have these great cocktail ideas. They come up with some really creative things, like lemon. I think it was limoncello that they had made, and I think it was with the Loganberry. Oh, and it was so good.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Whidbey Island Distillery. I like this.
You might never get off the island.
Now, if it's a little chilly, you could take your liqueur and you could put it in your coffee. And the one other coffee roasters, is it Mukilteo? Coffee roasters. You've got more coffee out there. So you could be adding,
just a little nip here and there.
A little nip to your coffee.
Yeah, you could go really local. You could take some of your whiskey from Whidbey Island Distillery and slip it into a cup of Mukilteo coffee.
Yeah. And have that with a sweet Mona chocolate.
Oh.
Sweet Mona chocolate. See, that's the way to close an evening, out on your private deck with a little blanket, your coffee with a little whiskey, and the chocolate.
Oh, now, okay.
Chocolate.
All right. So what time does the bus leave?
Yeah,
I
really.
know. Like, can the ferry just come pick us up on the mainland, like the big desert land? We need the ferry to come here. I don't know. Maybe we'll Amtrak up there. That's the thing. Okay, the RV's out. I want the private deck and the coffee, and I want the wine tasting. I want the whole thing. I want the entire experience. Thank you very much. So I want to give everyone the website. WhidbeyCamanoIslands.com is the website to go to. So you said 30 miles east of Seattle, so it's easy to get from the airport. And you've got a ferries, then you could do the drive over Deception Pass Bridge.
Yeah, or there's also
like
a ferry from Port Townsend, which is
cool.
on the Olympic Peninsula, that goes right into near Fort Casey in the middle of the island. So you have 3 ways to get there.
That's cool. Very easy.
Yeah.
Now, everyone, you can look at Hillary's photos and read her article. Go to nationalparktraveling.com. Just type in Whidbey Island. You'll find it. And if you go to the Washington section, look under the articles, you'll see Orcas Island, San Juan Islands, and that whole area is getting a lot of coverage. It's cool because people need to know about it because this is just special. This is just really special places that you're covering. And I hope you do get back up there. And I hope we do, too, because I'm hungry now and I'm very thirsty.
I know, but if I get back up there, will I ever want to go home? That's the problem.
I don't know.
It sounds like you might.
I know. I know. We may have to, you may need an RV. We're back to the RV thing again. I don't know. But, we do have some music for you today.
Oh, good.
I think I may have played this for you before. It's called Summer Wine. And I was just thinking about this island, the wine, the Pinot Noir, and getting out there and just enjoying island life. And I just thought, I feel like summer should be now. This is going to be in the June-July issue of Parks and Travel magazine, which is summer.
So done with the cold now.
And we want summer wine. And this is from our friend Shelley King. She is the very first woman of music in the state of Texas. Thank you very much. She rocks. She's the laureate of Texas, and she's based out of Austin, but she goes and plays with Amy Helm from Levon Helm, and she goes up and records in Woodstock at the Levon Helm studios and everything. She's very cool.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah, and she likes to travel too, so that's a cool thing. So we're going to play Summer Wine. It's off of her latest album called Fan Faves. You can go to ShellyKing.com, and that's an EY for that, Shelly. And, seashells, islands, just anyway. I think we all need wine time early. But NorthwindsWineConsulting.com is where to keep up with Hillary. Also, if you go to BlendRadioandTV.com, you'll see Hillary in the expert department, and you can read her other articles that go all over the place. Where's your next destination? Is it going to be Whidbey?
It may very well might be. I'm not quite sure right now, but wherever it is, I will find some wine.
Okay, I know you will because she is the wine queen, and we like to find all musicians with wine-themed songs send them to us so we can play them for Hillary on the shows. Thank you so much for joining us, and happy Friday.
Thank you. It was a pleasure as always, and happy Friday to you too.
Okay, here's some summer wine for you. Enjoy it. And I heard that the winemaker is really good on this, so here it is.
Okay.
Take care.
You too.
I've been thinking about getting away. Maybe I just need a little escape away from all this busying around. Find a little time to come unwound. It's so easy to get caught up in this race with so many dreams to chase. Then I hear that song on the radio making me wanna go out in the sunshine, sip a little summer wine, slow dancing in the park, stay there till after dark, sweet sound, soft and low, song on the radio. Maybe we could take a little drive out past the city to the countryside, holding hands and talking about love, away from all this push and shove. Take some time to look into your eyes, reconnect our disconnected lives. Remember how it used to be, when all that mattered was you and me. It's so easy to get caught up in this race with so little time to waste. Then I hear that song on the radio making me wanna go out in the sunshine, song on the radio. After all is said and done, you know you are my only one. Oh, darling, give your love to me. Then we'll hear our song on the radio, making us wanna go out in the sunshine, sip a little summer wine, slow dancing in the park, stay there till after dark. Sweet sound, soft and low, song on the radio. Do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do,
Everyone again, Shelley King. Go to shelleyking.com. That's off of her latest album, Fan Faves, and it is a fan fave, that song, and it's one of mine for sure. And I think that belongs on Whidbey Island.
Well, I think the sun is out.
The
and
sun,
even though
wine.
It's not summer, I think we have some wine.
We do.
And I think
that
it could be time to go out and have some.
I know. It's a perfect Friday song, and I think that's definitely dedicated for Hillary Larson, the wine queen. But everyone, you know what? Shelley's working on another album, and it should be coming out at the end of the spring, so we'll be keeping up with her on that. I want to thank everyone for joining us on today's show. Hillary Larson for that wonderful report on Whidbey Island that's now made me hungry, thirsty, and wanderlust. I want to go out.
I know. It's like, when do we leave?
I know, and then everyone up in the Sequoia country, California is just a beautiful area.
You could go there on the way.
Yeah, camping, the forest, the big trees, the orcas, the food, the wine. Oh my gosh, life is good, man. Life is good. We're going to be back on Sunday, February 25th, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. We're having a family radio festival. It's a family and parenting festival. We're going to talk about camp options for teens with special guest co-host Bobby DePorter. She's the president of Quantum Learning Network and co-founder of Super Camp. She's going to talk about what parents should consider when evaluating summer camp options. And she's an early pioneer in the applications of accelerated learning, and she's the creator of the 8 Keys of Excellence character education program and an author of over a dozen education-related books. She's the education queen. She's the queen of excellence, yeah. We love Bobby coming on the show. She's on our show every month or so, except for in the summer. Then she's out doing camp stuff.
Yep.
Super Camp, the world's leader in summer academic achievement programs for over 35 years. That's a lot.
That's special.
Absolutely. So she'll be co-hosting and talking about that, but also we have acclaimed author Jane Mirsky-Leader joining us to talk about her revised and updated second edition of her book, Dead Serious, Breaking the Cycle of Teen Suicide. It's really important. It has new chapters on bullying, LGBTQ teens, and suicide prevention programs, and reflects on today's cultural, technological, and social landscape in a world that is constantly changing. And, you know, look at what's happening with social media and the bullying through there. And so she's looking at that. And she's
That's good.
Yeah,
that needs to happen.
She knows firsthand being in a family, you know, losing a sibling to it. And that's how she got started in writing and getting this awareness out there. Also, Sarah Elliston is back on the show. She's the author of Lessons from a Difficult Person, How to Deal with People Like Us. And she's going to talk about how parents can use active listening to retain more influence through their kids. It's really important, just talking about how to have that communication, how to listen and let kids know that you are listening so that you hear things that you need to hear. So it's important for right now. So she'll be on the show. We'll also talk about some books and games for families and kids, like the Little Man in the Map books, geography books for kids, Spontaneous, the song game, and Find Something Awesome, the how-to books for kids. So everyone, that is on Sunday, February 25th at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. You can keep up with us at bigblendmagazines.com. That'll link you through to both digital magazines and our websites and Big Blend radio shows. We're on Twitter at Big Blend Mag and Parks and and Travel Mag, 2 different sites, and on Facebook under Parks and Travel Magazine, as well as Big Blend Radio and TV Magazine. So we're going to close with a little music because it's Friday and we're feeling good. We're going to play Another Lovely Day. It's from Everett Coast, a singer-songwriter duo out of Southern California. In fact, Josh is from Springville, right outside Sequoia-National Forest, and that's how we connected with him initially. Right. So I think it's always good to play their music when we have the Sequoias on our show. So it's off of their album Liftoff, and you can go to their website, everettcoast.com. So enjoy it and have another lovely day. Take care, everybody.
Well, it looks like we've got another lovely day here, I'll say. At least it looks that way to me. I wish you could have seen the sun rise, but you were sleeping so peacefully. Well, now I know you're safe, but God, I'm gonna miss your face and the way you said you love me. But I know we'll meet again someday, where we could be the best of friends. If you promise me it will never end this time. With the sun, you look through the window and you'd say to me, well, it looks like we've got another lovely day here, I'll say. At least it looks that way to me.